Hi there. It's been a little while since I've made a video, and I wanted to fill you in on what's been happening with the League of Misfits. I feel like getting caught up to date might be really good because I just love the story that's going on. I just want to tell it and I want to be able to remember it. So now we're going to delve into some of the past sessions leading up to the current one, and we'll try and do 2 sessions per video. When we last left our characters, they had just defeated Explicata Defilis, this snake-like creature that was brainwashing everyone inside of this town. And in doing so, they kind of got the reverence and the accomplishment and the acceptance from the entire town that they had saved them. So now the mayor wants to throw them a celebration. He wants to kind of encourage their praise amongst the villagers, and in doing so, they're going to kind of prepare for that. But at the same time, they also realize that there are some people, some soldiers that have come to town that seem to be looking for them. They got a message from Hotchick before, and they also were told by the mayor that these mysterious bandits are looking for them. So now they have to figure out what's going on there. The night after the dungeon, they all did their own individual things. The ranger put out her bow in order to recharge it underneath the stars. The druid started looking into his evil book that he had, and he started flipping through those pages and looking at some of the dark secrets that lays within. The warlock is seeing that his morning star is collecting all the souls that he's killing, and so he doesn't really know what it's for, but he doesn't really have any reason to doubt it because it hasn't harmed him up until now. And the rogue starts looking into the library of the mayor to see if he can find some books on maybe something that interests him, and he ends up finding one. A text from Archimedes Whitestock, who's a archmage, that talks about making your pet into a familiar, something he's been wanting to do with Raffles. Apparently, in order to do it, he only needs 2 ingredients. One of them is part of a cloud during a full moon, and the second one is the heart of a mountain that's warm to the touch. When all the characters wake up the next morning, they all feel slightly different. The druid's curiosity has taken over, and he's delved into the evil book and accepted 2 more dark gifts. One from, Zrinhala the Howling Storm, and it gives him the ability to cast Lightning Bolt as a spell. And the other one? Xantris the Kingmaker. It increases his charisma by 4, but nobody can say no to him, otherwise he has this undying urge to kill them. So anyone who's familiar with Curse of Strahd knows that these dark gifts are not good, and it kind of a little foreshadowing for the future. At the same time, the ranger has kind of adopted a new child, this troglodyte baby, and she decides that she wants to be a trog mother. She wants to start raising it. So this is going to be a whole new adventure for her to figure out how she can raise a chaotic, smelly creature into being a well-established, contributor to society, if she can. So with the morning comes a little bit of uneasiness because the party doesn't know what these strangers are doing in town, and they need to figure out what's going on, like what is their purpose for being there. So they decide to send 2 of the party to investigate. They have the warlock and the ranger, who both have disguise self. So they start heading over towards the inn, the one that the party hasn't burned down yet. And when they get there, they discover that most of these people are soldiers, and they're all outfitted in gear and armor and weapons, and they're inside drinking and being rude and kind of outlandish and breaking things, and they're definitely not the kind of group that this party wants to associate with, but they still want to know what is their purpose. So they approach one of the generals of this little outfit, and he starts telling them that, the realm is in civil war because Neverwinter, one of the cities up north, is in open rebellion against the crown. And because of that, the king has issued a draft so that any fighters or magic users now has to be part of the king's army to try and defeat the north and retake it for the crown. And so now, guess what? This party members, their deeds have kind of been sung a little bit, and everyone knows who they are. So now the king wants them in his army, so he's going to draft them in, whether they want to or not. Well, the party members don't want anything to do with that because they don't like being told what to do. So an all-out brawl just goes in front of this tavern. And the party members gathered together, so all 4 of them are in this fight now. And, it starts weighing in kind of the corner of the soldiers until the druid uses his newfound ability, Lightning Bolt. So he reaches into this dark book and he takes one of the spells and he uses it. However, this book is very evil, and with any of the spells comes a very significant curse. So when he shoots out this lightning bolt at the commander, a portal opens right above Orlane, and a storm giant falls through it onto the street. Everyone is staring in awe as this giant kind of lifts himself up to his full height, and he looks down and he speaks to the druid, saying the bringer of lightning, and he tells him that he is commanded by the Amber Temple in order to kill this druid who just called him. Now the druid is very anxious at this moment, so he decides to try and plead with the storm giant to destroy the rest of these soldiers first, and then they can talk. And he rolls pretty well on his charisma roll, and he ends up convincing the storm giant. The storm giant says he will, but afterwards he has to kill the druid. And the storm giant reaches up into the air, and lightning comes down and hits all 7 of these soldiers, killing them instantly. And now the rest of the party members are all like, we cannot deal with this thing, so they all get out of there. They scatter and run as fast as they can, and then they find the cart that the soldiers had traveled into town with. So they jump into the cart and they mush the horse along, trying to get out as fast as they can. And all the while, remember, the town is setting up for a celebration in the honor of the heroes. But now they've just brought a storm giant who is wrecking the town. So all the civilians that are out there in the Times Square, they're right in the path of this carnage. So as this chase ensues, the party doesn't really know what they can do at this point, so they decide that they're going to head up north to where the orcs in the forest are, and maybe they can get these 2 monsters to fight each other.
Let them fight.
Yeah, kind of like that. The storm giant lifts up a giant rock, and connected to it is the prize bush of Orlane that has the first of the rutabagas. The entire ancestry of this kind of farming community has been ripped out by its roots and tossed over towards the wagon. And as this giant rock slams into the side of this wagon, the wagon barely uses a dex roll to get out of the way, and then it heads forward towards the mayor's house. When it arrives to the mayor's house, he's like, "What is going on?" And then they just tell him, "No time to talk, get in." And so when he gets in, he tells them that, yeah, their idea of going to the orcs is a good idea, but there's a magical tower that's in the forest, slightly closer, and if they can get there, they might be protected against this thing. So they start issuing forward, and now we have a skill challenge. This storm giant is taking 3 leaps and making up his distance with the wagon, and as he comes closer, he's throwing rocks and hucking lightning bolts, and the wagon is barely dodging out of the way. At one point, one of the players almost falls out, but another player grabs onto him and holds onto him, kind of like Buzz and Woody behind the semi-truck. After a couple rounds, they finally turn around a corner and they can see the tower in front of them. And they can see that there is a large outcrop, a circle of mushrooms that encompasses this tower. And they head forward and parallel park right next to the tower. And as they do, the giant is rushing forward and he reaches out to grab onto them. But as soon as he passes the threshold of this circle, he starts to dissipate. And with a growl, he dissipates and disappears back towards where he came from. Up until now, the party has known that this book that the druid has is an evil artifact, but now they are absolutely certain, and they keep trying to convince him to get rid of it or stop using it, but the power has kind of overcome him at this point, and he's kind of like Boromir with the ring. He wants to use it for good. So now the party, safe and sound, has made it towards this tower, and they start to investigate it, a little curious as to what this tower is doing in the middle of the forest. And with them, they also brought a cleric who was held prisoner by the soldiers, and now he's joined the party as well. So now they have a larger party, and they have a designated healer. As they get closer to the tower, they start to hear from the mayor. He tells them that this tower was set up hundreds of years ago by an order of knights called the Delian Order. And their job was to try and kind of create an outwatch of towers and areas in order to protect different settlements from anything that comes down from the mountains. And so the rogue who has taken on the oath of this order starts to perk up, and he's all like, "Oh man, like I want to investigate this place." So they start to go into the tower to check it out. As they get in, they see that it's pretty dilapidated, in pretty bad shape, but they can see that it used to be a barracks. It was a place where the order would train new recruits, and they had a commander who'd be on the top of the tower kind of checking out and making sure that the landscape was okay. And in doing so, they also found that there was a puzzle door. There was this puzzle that was set up on the wall, and in order to kind of excite the players for returning, I decided to create a puzzle that they could move around and shift around pieces with their hands so that they could kind of get back into that mode of, that excitement of solving something. And as soon as they did solve it, They found that this secret passage opened up right behind it, descending into a basement. And that's where we ended session 1.